What if I told you the greatest tragedy in life isn't failure, but wasted potential? So many of us do this every day, not with gold, but with our gifts, our dreams, our calling. We bury our talents beneath fear, doubt, and excuses. And one day, when it's too late, we wonder, what if? But there's a truth we must face. What we don't use, we lose. Let's dig deeper. The parable of the talents, wasted potential. The midday sun blazed over the master's estate as he prepared for a long journey. His 3 servants stood before him, their faces a mixture of anticipation and uncertainty. He knew each of them well, their strengths, their weaknesses, their tendencies. He had watched them labor, listened to their excuses, and measured their faithfulness. Now he would entrust them with something greater. He called the first servant forward and placed 5 bags of gold in his hands. "You have proven yourself industrious," the master said. "Take this and multiply it." To the second he gave 2 bags of gold. "You have been faithful in small things. Be faithful in this." And to the third he handed a single bag of gold. "I know you," the master said, his gaze steady. "Do not let this go to waste." With that he departed, leaving them to their own devices. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The first 2 servants immediately set to work, investing, trading, and growing their master's wealth. Their hands were dirty, their brows covered in sweat, but their hearts burned with purpose. They understood a fundamental truth. What is given must be cultivated, but the third servant, he was different. Fear wrapped around his heart like iron chains. He looked at the bag of gold in his hands, feeling its weight, and convinced himself that risk was too great. What if he lost it? What if the master returned and found nothing? The thought of failure paralyzed him, and so he dug a hole in the earth, dropped the gold inside, and covered it with dirt. Safe, hidden, forgotten. The master returned after a long time, eager to see what his servants had done. The first approached, his 5 bags, now 10. "Master," he said, his eyes gleaming, "you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have doubled them." The master smiled, his approval evident. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many. Enter into your master's joy." The second servant stepped forward, his 2 bags, now 4. "Master, I have doubled what you gave me." Again the master beamed. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with little. You will now be entrusted with much. Enter into your master's joy." Then came the third servant. His face was pale, his hands clammy. He reached into his cloak and produced the single bag of gold still covered in dirt. "Master," he stammered, "I knew you to be a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown, gathering where you have not scattered seed. I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you." A heavy silence filled the air. The master's expression hardened. "You wicked and lazy servant! You knew, did you? You knew I reap where I have not sown, and still you did nothing. If you were so afraid, why did you not at least put my money in the bank to earn interest?" The servant opened his mouth, but no words came. Fear had been his excuse, but laziness had been his crime, and now his fate was sealed. "Take his talent and give it to the one with 10, the master commanded, "for to those who use well what they are given, even more will be given. But from the one who does nothing, even what little they have will be taken away." And the third servant was cast out into the outer darkness, where regret and sorrow reigned. Wasted potential, the tragedy of playing it safe. We often imagine that doing nothing is better than trying and failing. The third servant believed that playing it safe would protect him, that burying his talent would absolve him of responsibility. But the parable teaches us a harsh reality. Unused potential is a crime against both the giver and the receiver. How many of us have talents buried in the ground? Perhaps it is a dream we are too afraid to chase, a book left unwritten, a skill never honed, an opportunity ignored because fear whispers, "What if you fail?" The world is full of people who never stepped forward when their moment came. Feared judgment, rejection, or loss. Like the third servant, they buried their talents beneath self-doubt, only to one day look back and wonder, what if? The call to multiply, the first two servants understood something. The third did not. Life is about multiplication, growth, expansion. Faithfulness does not mean standing still. It means stepping out, investing in what we have, and taking risks. In obedience, God has placed gifts within each of us, not to be hidden, but to be used. To inspire, to build, to bless. Our talents are not ours to hoard. They are meant to be cultivated for His glory and for the good of others. What talent have you buried? The Master has entrusted you with something, perhaps a voice that can encourage, hands that can heal, wisdom that can guide. But will you use it, or will fear win again? Imagine standing before the Master on the final day. Will He call you good and faithful, or wicked and lazy? Will He celebrate your courage or mourn your wasted potential? Time is still in your hands. The soil can still be dug up, the talent can still be put to work, but the question remains, will you multiply or will you bury?